Is it hard to be a Muslim? That is the question I want to ask, and I want to offer you a brief response to that question. So, my dear friends, YouTube viewers, Salamun Alaikum, it's good to be with you. I think too often have you and I been taught by our teachers, by our madrasas, by our Muslim leaders, that Islam is a exertion. You need to exert yourself. You need to make the effort. And that effort is you need to expend energy to please God. And that energy takes the form of rituals, extra rituals, more extra rituals, going and digging out hadiths and finding out what more can I do. So if you eat with your right hand, but you know what else can I do? So, okay, you need to eat with your front tips of your fingers of your right hand. Then what else can I do? No, you need to use the 3 fingers of your right hand and only eat with those 3 fingers. What else can I do? No, you need to sit down in a posture like this when you eat. And for many people, that is how you get the pleasure of God. And that is, honestly speaking, for those of you who are not Muslim born or who have not gone through the Muslim socialization conditioning process, that is really how Muslims think. And I get a lot of questions. I get questions on WhatsApp and all over asking me, what is the best way to put my scarf on? What is the best way to, enter the mosque or whatever? And that really is where people are with the practice of Islam. You see, the problem is that you have a completely, I think my impression and my reading of the Qur'an, and I've read many hadiths, I've memorized about 1,000 hadiths in my own head. I know 1,000 hadiths. It's very tempting to quote them, and I do cite hadiths. I'm not anti-hadith. I'm just anti-imposing God's divinity on the hadith. I don't see any divinity in the hadith. So the problem is people see divinity, people see divine value in the hadith, and therefore, because there's so many hadiths, every hadith now has to be acted upon. And then it can become very, very overwhelming. It can become actually very stressful to please everyone, because Muslims also, they have this get you attitude, catch you out attitude. So if you haven't seen a particular hadith, let's say for example you wear a gold ring, man wears a gold ring, then you will offer a Muslim guy, the Muslims that we have become, you will offer another Muslim an opportunity to do a little bit of a get you on you and tell you, look, gold is haram, why you shouldn't be wearing a gold ring. And you also being programmed to believe that your entire life has to be shaped by those 500,000 hadiths, whether they're weak or strong, whatever. You kind of like jump when somebody gets you, somebody catches you out on something small. So maybe you walk past a dog and the dog touches you, and then it's a catch you moment, it's a catch you out moment for another Muslim. And so if you go on social media, you'll notice that the Muslims are basically playing the game of catch you out. And there's a sanctimony, there's a self-righteousness that is involved there. And it's very, very stressful, you see, because the source of these catch you out sort of attitude is the priests, right? The Muslim priests. So they go on a Friday and they speak and they will highlight things and they will get lost into the minutiae of, your fingers and your toes in the salah, and how to eat, and how to go to the loo, and how to come out of the loo, and how to fall asleep at night, and how to lie on your bed, and how to put your posture when you sleep. All of this are actually hadith-based Islam. It's an Islam that strangles you. Why? Because it stops you from functioning naturally. It stops you from functioning spontaneously. It stops you from functioning like any other human being in the moment. You can't live in the moment because you have this repository, this database of a million minutiae that you need to comply with. And that is the life of a Muslim. And no wonder that Muslims are, to a large extent, are the victims of medication, of drugs, of suffer various nervous disorders. I know enough good Muslims to know that these people are living a life of trying to keep up with the hadiths. In their homes, everything has to check every one of those 500,000 boxes. And if you don't check a box, you might suffer, you might be caught out by somebody else. And then you will be found to be less than a good Muslim. And that is, my friends, the sad state of Islam that we are in. I've had cases where we have famous Muslims playing sportsmen in our country. And people will actually make a point of saying, how does he fast? How does he make salah? How does he cover his aura? Or like we have a very famous musician here, Abdullah Ibrahim, Dollar Brand. He's a very famous jazz musician. Top jazz musician in America also. You can look up Dollar Brand or Abdullah Ibrahim. And this guy was once on the radio, and people would ask him, listen, how do you make salah? Is music halal? I mean, you're playing the piano and all this. And when I was an announcer or a facilitator on a local radio station at one stage in the past, I used to get so fed up and frustrated at this attitude of Muslims of trying to fine-tune everything for you. And they kind of lost the plot at some point. They lost the plot long ago. Because all you need to do is, you need to open the holy sacred text of Allah, the Qur'an, read it with understanding. If you can't read it in Arabic with understanding, try and find a good translation, the translation of maybe Asad or maybe Shakir. Those are two good translations. And I think there's another few good translations. Any translation, read any translation, and you will find out that Islam is not really about the minutiae. There are no minutiae. There's no prohibition against gold rings in the Quran. There's no prohibition of playing with a dog in the Quran. There's no prohibition of wearing silk in the Quran. There's no prohibition on music in the Quran. Yes, there's prohibition on fawahish, but music is not fawahish. So don't. If you're going to be a spokesman for God, you better make very, very sure that you're not talking nonsense, because one of the greatest crimes in the Quran is to speak on behalf of God a lie. That is a massive, massive crime. So when you're going to be quoting God or invoking God or telling us that that is God's will, you better make sure you're not getting yourself into a huge amount of trouble. So what are we to do? First of all, let me tell you today that all those million minutiae, all those things, how to eat, how to walk, how to go to the loo, how to go to bed, what posture to lie on, whatever, all of that. I'm asking you today, this is what I can offer you, here. I'll take responsibility for it. You can take all of that and just put it down. All of that. Take it all and put it down. It's not necessary. You don't have to worry about those things. I have a question here. What about the scarf? What about must I wear a scarf? You know what? The Qur'an says, and draw your khimar, the shawl, the covering, that piece of fabric covering, draw it over the cleavage, over the bosoms here. That is literally what the Quran says. Now people have interpreted that a khimar it was worn over the heads, but then you know what you are doing is you are saying that what God meant was this. You don't have the ability or the power to say that this is what God meant. You see, what you are doing is you are overreaching your own humanity, your own frail, your own weakness. You are trying to reach into a domain that you don't belong. So if the scarf verse, the famous verse on the scarf says, draw your khimar over your bosom, over your cleavage. If you want to read it as over your hair, yes, do it, no problem. But don't tell me that that is what God meant, or that is how the Arabs used to wear it. God's literal word says, draw the piece of fabric over the bosom, over the cleavage. Hide the attractive features that a woman possesses. And I'm a man, and know, a finger can evoke a certain feeling in a man, a voice. And so when you go down the path of saying everything of a woman arouses a man, then you should rather say that women should be locked up in a home without windows. My friends, that is actually happening. I know cases where men lock their women up in homes without windows. So I'm asking you to take all that minutiae, all those details, everything that you feel that have made overburdened you. I'm telling you today, and I will tell you that because I'm reading the Qur'an, the holy text, the sacred text of God Almighty, the Qur'an, and I can tell you now those minutiae are nowhere there. Whether you can eat crayfish or whether you can eat, mussels or seafoods, or the Qur'an's text. All you need to do is read the text, and it says, "Uhillat lakum saydul bahr wa ta'am." You see that the text of the Qur'an says halal has been made for you, the food of the ocean, and whatever you hunt from the ocean. So the text is clear. But if somebody's going to tell you, no, crayfish is haram, and a fish without scales is haram, and eating, prawns or mussels, you see, that is where the problem comes in. We are adding things to the law. It's almost like what you are saying to God is, God, listen, Ya Allah, you forgot these things, and so somebody 300 years later had to write these things in a book. Some guy had to fix your book for you. Your book wasn't perfect, and so some guy had to come and fix your book. My friends, but let me move on. This I don't want to stick to the negative. I want to actually get to the positive part of this video, and that is, what is Islam then? Because some of you don't know what Islam is. All you know is to do the minutiae. All you want to do is like, I need to shave under my arms. I need to shower. I need to, when I'm ghusling, I need to wash the right side and the left side. That's all you need to, that's all you know how to be a Muslim, is to follow the millions of little minutiae rules that you've been taught. And by the way, because you are saddled with all this and because it's such a hell of a cumbersome thing for you, you're going to make the next Muslim's life also hell. So you're going to point out, right? But if that is not Islam, what is Islam? What then is Islam? What is it to be a Muslim? If that's not a Muslim, and I'm telling you today, that is not being a Muslim. You see, being a Muslim is to be a person of, primarily, and this is often repeated in the Qur'an, a person of taqwa. Now, what is taqwa? Because taqwa can be used in two senses. You can use it as ittaqillah, taqwa of God, or it can just stand alone as taqwa. People of muttaqeen, the people of taqwa. What does it mean? You see, taqwa is integrally connected to your sense, your internal compass of what is good and what is evil, what is ugly and what is beautiful, what is helpful and what is unhelpful, what is just and what is unjust, what is beneficial and what is non-beneficial. And we all have this pre-programmed compass within ourselves where we know when we are doing something that is immoral, unhelpful, non-beneficial, detrimental, harmful, unjust, unfair. You see, that is natural within us. And when you're at work, let me take a very good example, a classical example in my community. You know, we have a problem with dumping. The Muslims are fond of coming into a neighborhood. Not Muslims, let me not say that, but in my experience, it's not a big deal to pollute or to dump your junk on a public open field. It's a big problem because it really creates a very unsightly, appearance within a community. And the reason for that is that there is just no hadith, there's no verse, there's nothing that says don't dump. So Muslims, or generally, they won't feel that they going against any rule, because I mean, if you're dumping junk on an open field there where it is like a bunch of medical waste or your old diapers of your child, of your baby, that's fine, dump it, because that's just an open field. Or the way people use the loos at the mosque, it's like there's no rules pertaining to how the mosque are. So normally you'll go to the loo in the mosque and you'll find water lying all over the place, because there's no real hadith or something that says you must. But because the Muslims are doing everything without that sense, that internal compass, without that natural ability to distinguish between what is ugly and what is beautiful, what is clean and what is dirty, they basically go on and they commit this ugly acts of pollution, of antisocial behavior, in fact. Because they're not allowing their natural compass, that natural innate ability to do what is beautiful, good, right, beneficial, just. That compass is dysfunctional. And all they want is they want a hadith, give me a hadith, give me a hadith. And if there's no hadith, then it's fine. And so they are being manipulated by their kings. Islam is about taqwa. It is about that internal compass of what is right and what is wrong. And if there's ambiguity in that compass, if there's ambiguity about it, let's say, for example, when it comes to something like interest, usury, then the Qur'an gives a decisive verdict on a question like that. And so the Qur'an takes a very, very strong position against usury, against exacting interest from people, from the poor especially. When it comes to war, it's an ambiguous thing. Do we fight? Do we kill? The Qur'an comes out and clarifies, yes, military combat is permitted under certain circumstances. When you are under attack, when you are being chased off your land, when you are being violated in whatever way physically. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we are people of taqwa, we are people who use our internal compass to do what is right, to do what is just, do what is fair. That is being a good Muslim. You know, that is the light, that is the illumination, that's the luminosity of Islam. That is the beauty of you as a Muslim, is that you are a shining example of what is beautiful, just, beneficial, right. And you shy away, you shun fawahish, moral impurity, moral corruption, like uncasual, random sex, like other forms of violence and ugliness that is not warranted or justified. But now if you look at the Muslim world, you find, like a few days ago, some shaitan, some devil detonated a bomb at a ceremony in Pakistan, a religious ceremony, and killed 57 people. My friend, that is because the internal compass is dead. The madrasa has killed the ability to see what is right and what is wrong. And so for them, killing has become easy. Murdering children and women has become very, very easy. Why? Because if you declare somebody an apostate, like the Hadith, then you can kill them with impunity. My friends, that is what I want to say. And in conclusion, we say that version of Islam, the one that I'm offering you, is not a difficult Islam. I feel that I am living my deen. I'm living my Qur'an. And you know what? Every day I feel the blessings of God in my life. I feel it at various levels. I feel it in terms of my health, my happiness, my physical well-being, the beautiful life and surroundings and rizq, the blessings of rizq income, livelihood that I've been blessed with, the love of family, the harmony between me and those who feel similarly about the deen. My friends, and so what I'm saying to you is that when you drop the false Islam, when you come to the Islam of the Qur'an, the blessings will return to your life. Because I've heard Muslims say, I do everything, but I'm still struggling. My child is on drugs. My wife and I, we're fighting. I'm busy, I'm struggling at work. My income is not enough. You know what? If your life is like that, you need to check yourself up and see, what are you doing? Blessings will come to your life when you do what is right, when you live the deen as God wanted it, and not as you read 500,000 stories of people that gave you those stories long after the Prophet. My friends, Islam is easy. The deen, to live by the Qur'an, is very easy. All you need to do is be natural, be yourself, be kind, be decent, be upright. Do the commands that God gives you in the Qur'an, and park and be very, very skeptical about everything that people tell you, because those people, nobody appointed them to speak on behalf of God. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.